You're listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast, the show that helps you build wealth faster, think outside the box, and break out of the herd.
Fantastic. Thanks
Here's
for
your
having
host, Jim
Thank you
Oliver.
for being here. I'm super excited. I love your background and the topic you're going to talk about. And audience, Jill is a U.S. Marine veteran, so thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And an expert in the science of bravery. Now, I'm always telling people to take action, and you got to be brave to take action. So, Jill, tell us a little bit about how did you get into being an expert in the science of bravery? Obviously, being a Marine, you got to be brave, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I thought when I was a Marine, like I knew everything about bravery. And then when I went back and I studied the science of positive psychology, which is the science of elevating your life satisfaction, your happiness and well-being. And then I started learning more about all aspects of positive psychology, but including the things that hold you back. And I learned about fear and how fear controls us and how it holds us back from having our best life. And then I started digging into bravery. And I just realized like this is the missing piece that so many people that I work with, friends, my kids' friends, my clients, corporations, like the lack of an ability to be bold or to be brave is something that so many people face. So the biggest surprise I had is that bravery isn't what I used to think it was, which I used to think bravery was just like running into battle. And by the way, I served 96 to 2001 in peacetime. I missed all the action, didn't see combat once. So I was ready, but never had to see any combat. But bravery is so much bigger than what I thought. It's not just reserved for these heroic moments of running into a burning building. Bravery is defined as the academic definition by Dr. Cynthia Puri from Clemson University is it's voluntary action in the presence of fear toward a worthwhile or noble goal. We all have worthwhile and noble goals, things that we want to do, things that we want to accomplish. And many times the thing that holds us back from accomplishing it is we have this fear that controls our action. So I just became obsessed with that. I mean, in between the Marine Corps and what I'm doing now, I worked in corporate America, did very well. Last thing I did in corporate America is I was doing leadership development for Fortune 100 companies. Have my own company that does that. But then I'm always wanting to learn and grow. So when I went back to school, just, I don't know, to stretch myself a little bit, I became obsessed with this topic.
I love this topic because I think back to the book, The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz, right? And there's some stories in there, but he says action cures fear. So I want you to comment on that in a second. And I think action cures everything, right? So but he tells a story about G. Gordon Liddy, who was running the CIA, and he was afraid of rats. So he ate one. Now, that's an extreme example. Like it made me and you think about fear of heights, you think about fear of failure, fear of success, all of this fear, right? We're consumed by fear. But I want you to talk about action. Does action cure fear? And where does this fear come from? Look, I'm not going to say I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist or something like that, but are we taught to be fearful?
Okay. I have like 3 questions and I'm so excited to share. So let's just start off, where does fear come from?
Yeah.
So, and are we taught fear? So where fear is something that is in our biology. So I want everyone to know, like, if sometimes when you experience fear and it holds you back from acting, it's because you're human. And this just comes from, if you look at evolutionary psychology, like back in caveman days, fear is what kept us alive. But the fear back then was physical. There are no saber-toothed tigers chasing us down anymore. The fear that we experience now is social fear, fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, and fear of rejection. But our neurology doesn't know the difference. Fear is fear. And so when we experience fear, many times you have this reaction, run, go the other way, because I want to stay safe. So we do have that in our biology. But you ask, can it be taught? Yes, it absolutely can. In fact, our current culture, which is one of the things I'm trying to correct, is our current culture really is creating a comfort culture. I will go a step further, is we have become a culture of coddling, where we are confusing happiness and well-being with comfort and ease. And so I feel, especially sometimes I see the world through my teenage daughters, or one just turned 20, so I should say 18 and 20. I see everything that comes in and they're like, no, just take a self-care day. And oh, if it's stressful, just take it away. So it feels like the world wants to remove any challenges and obstacles. So we've got two things going against us, which is why I'm on a mission to teach people how to be bold and how to be brave. So we've got kind of our natural evolution, and then everything we hear in society is just take it easy, make it easy, like remove the adverse. And it's actually not true. And now if I can go to my expertise in positive psychology, if you want your happiest life, your most fulfilled life, then do not choose the easy path, because that is a fast track to a life of depression and anxiety. And I want people to know the truth. And that is the truth. And real self-care is, when you're not feeling like getting up and doing work and doing whatever you have to do, is real self-care is keeping a promise to yourself and getting your ass out of bed and taking the action that you promised yourself or your company or the loved ones around you. And then at the end of the day, then you can look back and go, wow, I feel great about my day. So the first question you asked was like, where does fear come from? So that's where fear comes from. And yes, it can be learned. Second question you said was where you were asking about, does action cure fear? So there are different factors that can allow us to overcome our fears, and action is one of them. It's actually one of the biggest. So, but before we get to action, mindset does matter. So you said the magic of thinking big, right? So part of it is we have to start on the cognitive side. Now, excuse me, I am kind of an academic geek, so I sometimes bring in academic studies, but
Oh,
I,
good.
I want you and your audience to know this isn't just what this Marine thinks this. It's not about what I think. This is what we know scientifically is absolutely fact. So on the cognitive side, we do need to shift our thinking where we believe that we can accomplish hard things, that we can achieve goals, that we should be able to, again, think big and imagine what could be and have the belief that we can actually get there. So I do a lot of work, with the companies I work with on just the cognitive side, using the power of yet, people understanding that stress and challenges are good for them, not bad for them, because it helps them grow and develop. So that's just the cognitive side. But your question was about the action. So let's get to that. So we always do a little bit of work on mindset. I call it the warrior mindset. It's just the Marine in me, because sometimes when you hear mindset, if you heard someone here is a positive psychology expert, she's here to talk on mindset, I would say half of the world, including my former self, like probably 5 years ago, would roll my eyes and go, oh boy, here's one of those happy, clappy people, right? But there is absolute concrete science to developing that. I call it the warrior mindset. Believe you can freaking do hard things because you can. You got to have that belief first. But then action is where it all is. You are spot on. You are right. It was really Albert Bandura who discovered that. He discovered what he calls self-efficacy, the belief that you can do things. And in his research, he did it not with rats, as you said, but he did it with snakes. So as he was trying to discover how do you help people overcome fear, he found he could do as much as he could in terms of telling them that the fear is not valid and that snakes are not dangerous. It didn't matter. It was all about the action. So what he found, he calls these mastery experiences. So in this famous study that he did, and this kind of his groundbreaking study was, first thing he did is had people look at pictures of snakes, which was uncomfortable. And then he had them look at a video of snakes, even more uncomfortable. And then he brought a live snake into the room, but it was on the other side of the room in an aquarium. And then it was closer. Then he took the snake out and handled it. Eventually they held the snake. So in order to overcome fear, it's all about action. The definition of fear, if you remember, it's voluntary action in the presence of fear toward that worthwhile goal. So in order to be brave, you're not going to be fearless. There's going to be fear there. So you need to take steps toward the thing that you fear. Now, if you have a fear of heights, I don't know if you should just go from having a huge fear and just jumping out of an airplane. I mean, maybe that would be a way to rip the Band-Aid off. But in Bandura's experience, he said it's exposure therapy because of mastery experiences. You take a step forward. Like let's say someone has a fear of public speaking. right? They start off and they speak just in front of two people that are good friends. And then so you just keep making it outside the comfort zone, outside the comfort zone. Yeah. Bandura says when you do that, then you create evidence to yourself, proof to yourself and say, I just did that. Wow. Self-confidence, self-efficacy increases until you finally overcome the thing. So if you don't take action, then you'll never become brave. So the mindset is just to help with the action. And then there's actually one other body of evidence in social psychology that make it easier to take action. But you're right, it's all about the action. Mindset is to help take the action. And then also in social psychology, there is something called conformity theory. So if you hang out with a bunch of people who are bold, take risks and are brave, you're more apt to be brave, right? So there's that conformity theory. So that saying that you might have heard your parents say or mentors say, like you are who you hang out with, it actually is true when it comes to bravery. I like to use the example of someone has never really been fit and they've always thought to themselves, like, I'm not a runner. Right. And then I go back to the mindset and go, well, you're not a runner yet, which
Right.
opens the door to possibility. And then we say like, okay, so now you have to take action each day and get started, like run, maybe a minute and then walk a minute. And, you have to start taking the steps and say, now to make it easier, these two things, the cognitive and the behavioral psychology things, these are all internal things we have to work on. But to make it easier, now hang out with people who are going to make it easier for you to go for runs. If you keep hanging out with all the people that just sit on the couch and they game all day and the only thing they do is watch television and that's your circle, you're trying to run is going to be like running uphill into the wind with a parachute on your back because they're not going to support you. So you got to change your environment to support the brave action. Yep. Long answer to a
No,
quick
that's
question.
such a good answer. And I got like 10 other questions just from your answer there, because I want to talk about bravery and scarcity versus bravery and abundance. I want to talk about the definition of happiness. Like what is it that makes us happy? And then I also want to talk about like when you said that when you're feeling down or depressed, like the thing that came to my head is I start writing. Like I either write on my vision board, which is this whole wall right here, or I like get in my bullet journal and I start writing out this big elaborate thing. And that makes me feel better. Like, but I love the fitness correlation, and I don't run, but I'm into longevity and anti-aging and fitness. And I had somebody on the show, Jill, and they said, well, you don't really want to do public goals. And here I'm like on my show telling everybody I'm going to have abs by the time I was 60. And I just turned 60 in June, which I did. Right. But I'm the opposite. I'm like, I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to do it, because then if I don't do it, it puts more pressure on me to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So then I get braver because I'm going to take that action or whatever I need to do, because I don't want to embarrass myself. But I think that back to like, and I want to talk about like some examples of bravery that you've seen and that you've been through, and like how that created stronger character. So I gave you like about 4 things there.
Yeah, I'm like writing all these questions going like, oh my gosh, where are we going to start?
Yeah. So let's start wherever you want to start
Okay.
But by the way, I'm super ADHD, so we're going to have like 7 conversations at once, and I'm going to count on you to keep us focused.
I love it. Well, that's why I always take notes, because like you'll ask a question or say something, which makes me excited to share something. So I've got like 5 notes here. Well, let's really just start with, let's go back to the basics of what is happiness and well-being, and how can we elevate it? So there is this entire scientific study on how do you elevate it. So the difference between positive psychology, which is happiness and elevating happiness and well-being, and just psychology in general, is for a long time, the field of psychology used to only focus on people who are unwell, people who had been diagnosed with, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression. And it was really all about helping people who are miserable just be not miserable. So if you think of like a spectrum of unhappiness in terms of like our psychology, and then this is like in the midline is like, okay, I'm not happy, I'm just not miserable. And then you have this midline, and then you have people who are the happiest, most fulfilled people in the world. So what my expertise is I am not a psychologist that help people who are clinically diagnosed. what my expertise is, how do you take people who are at a 0 and get them up to a 5 out of, all the way up to a 10? Like, how do you make them happier? Or how do you, even better, how do you take someone who's doing pretty well? They're like, I'm happy. I'm at a 5. How do you get them to a 10? So what my expertise is, how do you elevate life satisfaction, happiness, and well-being to the highest level? And what we know about happiness is that, first of all, it's something we can control. There's things that we can do in order to control our happiness. So if you want to be happy, then there's action you can take. And they're really across 5 different buckets of things that we can do. And this all comes from Marty Seligman. I studied underneath him at the University of Pennsylvania. He is the father of positive psychology, but there's 5 major things. The first one, it's an acronym. I love acronyms because it keeps it simple. It's PERMA, PERMA. So P stands for positive emotion. Experiencing positive emotions. You've heard probably a lot of people talk about like gratitude journals to be thankful. That's where that comes from. So many people think that, oh, well, emotions just happen to me. There's nothing I can do about my emotions. I'm just a victim of my emotions. That's bullshit. You can change your emotional state. Barbara Fredrickson is one of the major researchers there. So there's things we can do to shift our emotional state to have those positive emotions. I mean, gratitude journal is just one example. You do journaling, you've talked about. There's so many things we can do. For me, it's exercise, right? So experiencing positive emotions is important, but in the field of positive psychology, it's only 1/5. Because some people think, oh, happiness is just smiling every day. No, it's actually 1/5. The second thing is engagement. This is getting into the flow state. Csikszentmihalyi's research on, finding the thing that you really love and always challenging yourself to get better. So that's flow state. That's engagement. The third R in PERMA is relationships. The quality of the relationships with the people in your life is absolutely critical. People in your family, friends, and work, all of those contribute to our well-being. Let's get to M. M is meaning. We have to find some meaning. We exist in this world to bring some value. We've got to find what that is so we feel like there's some meaning. And it doesn't have to be for saving the world. It could just be maybe someone is a stay-at-home mom and their meaning that is so deep to them is to raise their kids to be the best humans and take care of the home. As long as the person's experiencing the meaning, then that can elevate. And then the last one is in PERMA A is accomplishment. And that is my zone because that's just who I am. Like I've always been someone who loves to accomplish things and businesses hire me to come in so their people can accomplish things and the company can accomplish things. So, but when you can accomplish something that is challenging and meaningful, what does it do? I mean, let me ask you, Jim, like what's one of the most proud accomplishments that you've achieved in life and how did that impact your life satisfaction, your psychology?
Yeah, let me think about that for a second. There's a lot of them, but I would say that buying companies and helping people and like serving people is because when I was a kid, you're in Southern California, so so I'll there was a company it was in El Segundo, then it moved to Compton. It was a casket factory. When I was 13, I started working in the casket factory, and the owner, and I grew up in Inglewood, and the owner lived in Palos Verdes. Right now, if you live in Inglewood, Palos Verdes is like heaven, right? Like,
yes, yes, I know the area. Yes,
yeah. So, I'm sure it's not perfect, but in my mind, it was. And so I saw the owner of this company. And then I thought, well, everybody that's working here is dependent on this owner. So when I bought over 30 companies because I worked there when I was 13 years old and I saw what the owner was doing, where the owner lived his lifestyle. I was adopted. He adopted 5 kids. They all went to Pepperdine. Again, the area. That's a super high-end school. And so like for me, that accomplishment was I want to own businesses. I want to and I want to grow these businesses, grow these people, and give people opportunity to also be owners. I give every single person that's running one of my companies opportunity for equity.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, what a great story. So you went from just being that employee and not having anything, being dirt poor, looking at the guy in Palos Verdes, seeing all this richness, and then you were able to accomplish this. And you're like, now I bought the company to help so many people. So love that story. And so when you accomplish that, like that I want everyone that's listening here, I want you to think of what's your most proud accomplishment. Like for me, earning the title of United States Marine, being commissioned and then, serving. And the reason why it was such a proud accomplishment for me is because I did not have an easy path. Like I had to overcome so many obstacles to be able to get there. And that's why it made it so meaningful. So when we set that challenging, meaningful goal, like you did, or my example of becoming a Marine, it helps us elevate the meaning of our life, but also just our life satisfaction. And then the one thing that gets in the way of that accomplishment, people sometimes stay small because of fear, right? So that's kind of my lane that I specialize in. But when I help people overcome fear, I kind of hit on all of PERMA because I'm like, okay, what's the thing you've always wanted to do? Or what is that noble, worthwhile goal? And I guess some kind of good news, bad news. It shouldn't be about status or just money. It has to be about a greater good because then it's kind of like eating Chinese food. Like it feels good for a second and then you realize it really wasn't that satisfying. So, but
Yeah.
once you set that goal and I start helping people, we talk about the rest of PERMA. Like I don't want you to wait until you accomplish the goal to experience positive emotions. There's ways that we can generate positive emotions to best serve us, the team that we lead, and that's rocket fuel to accomplish our goal. And then you got to make sure that your engagement in the flow state, doing what you love to accomplish the goal. And then as you're working with people to accomplish this goal, I really want you to focus on developing those relationships that are meaningful on a personal level, but are really strategic in helping you accomplish the goal. And then make sure that the goal is meaningful. So when I help people overcome fears to accomplish goals, I hit all of PERMA, which really is why it gives someone such a boost. So, and as I go into companies, I talk about like, I am here to help move the bottom line and people will accomplish goals, and I do care about that. But what I really care about is what it does to the people as they go on the journey and how they experience, like you will never work harder. I tell people like, I'm going to make you do really hard things and love it. There's something we used to say in the Marine Corps, and it's embrace the suck. You're going to learn how to embrace the suck. There are times where things are going to be tough, but you will keep going because most people are going to quit and you are not going to, which is why you are going to stand out and be more successful. So I take people through the journey and they realize it's kind of like teaching someone to go in the gym. Like my best workouts are when I'm doing a leg work and my legs are shaking and I'm so sore the next day. Like I want to be sore. I want the pain because it's a growth. So it's just teaching people that. And they need someone to teach them it because they're living in a society where everyone says, no, don't be hard on yourself. Just be comfortable. Like it's driving me crazy. So trying to correct the narrative a little bit.
I, I really love that. There's a couple of things that you've mentioned and that I like experienced in my life. One is if I was afraid of heights, like I always thought to myself, well, then I should just go up to the top of the Empire State Building every single day until I'm not afraid anymore. Right.
Yep.
So that's kind of back to that.
Bandura's research. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And so I know that works because think of something that you're even like golf, right? The more golf balls you hit, you're not going to stand over the ball and be afraid to hit the ball. Yeah. You're just not. It's like I've done this a million times. Take it back, hit it, and not care where it's going. Right. That's another part of it. But
yeah, let's just hit that for a moment because there's a lot of psychology behind that. So, how you experience or how you frame the early failures is really, really important. Because the reason why people like sometimes don't want to like take a bold move is they're afraid that they're not going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. We have to be brave enough to suck at something new. Like whenever you set a new goal and you've never done it before, you're going to go through this learning curve and you are not going to be great at the beginning. And just like you said with golf, it takes reps. So we need to reframe failure in that positive way. Like they are the stepping stones. Like I tried something and it didn't work. Well, what did I learn? Like maybe if I'm learning to golf, like, okay, so I had the right posture and I had the right grip, but I didn't do the right follow through. So I'm learning, so what am I learning? Each time I miss the ball, I can learn something and make those little adjustments. So failure is necessary on the road to accomplish your goals. And that's the big reason why people don't want to do it. They're so scared, like, well, I just don't want to do it because I might be embarrassed and I might fail. And I just tell you will fail. You are going to have early failures. And that's a big reason why I encourage people to have the brave tribe. I call it the brave tribe. Surround yourself with people that will encourage you so that when you do fall and you do fail, they're going to be the ones to pick you up. When I was scared to write a book, like I'm 51 years old. My first book is coming out right now. It's on the science of bravery. It's called The Bravery Effect. I wanted to write a book about 10 years ago. And I just kept thinking I had writer's block. I'm just not a good writer. I'm applying the strategies that are in my book after I studied bravery. And it's amazing how it works. But when I got stuck, I would go to my mentors. And I want you to, you need to make sure that your mentors or your brave tribe are people who have done the hard thing you've done before. So don't just go to like the same friends you always hang out with. No, I'm saying like that are good people, you need to like be strategic when it comes to building your brave tribe. So I went and sought out people who have written and published very successful books in the business world. Right. Ken Blanchard is one of my mentors. I've known him for years. So I would ask Ken, like, Ken, I'm stuck. I need help. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I don't know. And what Ken would say to me, he goes, Jill, I had the same problem. You had the same problem. You've had 48 New York Times bestselling books. Like, how is that possible? He's like, well, yeah, when I was getting started, I felt just like you. And then it makes you feel like I'm just normal. He said, no, that's what happened to me too. I'm like, well, if that's what happened to you, then these early failures, this is just normal. And then I was telling him, like, I was having like writer's block. I'm like, I would sit down and it just wouldn't come out. But then I would be talking to him and it would just flow. He's like, Jill, all of your ideas are articulate and they just flow freely. You know what you're talking about. But when I get in front of the computer, he's like, again, same thing happened to me. He goes, just use dictation. Try that out. That was the key, right? So I surround yourself with people that have accomplished the thing that you are seeking to do. Right. And then be brave enough to go up and ask for them. Some people might think like, well, they don't want to help me. They wouldn't want to help me. I'm scared of going up to them. You were talking about scarcity and abundance. Like, believe it or not, when you ask someone to help you and they see you as an eager, ambitious young person that wants to do things, they enjoy helping. There's a lot of literature on pro-social behavior where they get more of a positive boost in their emotion by helping you than you do in being helped. So do not rob them of the opportunity. So be brave enough to say, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to go find people that I admire. There's no problem envying people who have done something very successful if you just want to study what did they do so I can follow their steps, or let me go up and ask them what they did, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what comes to mind.
So I love everything. By the way, Jill's book comes out August 26th. Why do I know that? Because I just ordered it and it says that's release day. So when I look down, I'm either taking notes or I just, again, ADHD, I'm ordering it now and it'll show up in 2 weeks or less. And I'll go, oh yeah, that's right. I ordered that book. And then because I love everything that you're saying, I love it because when you said, growth, which is accomplishments, which I always say, like, just make progress. And somebody on my team, he always says, you're like a barge. Like you're not going that fast, but you're going.
Yes.
Like, and you never, ever go back up the river, right? You're going down the river.
Yeah.
But I love what you said about failure is necessary. Love the bravery effect. Can't wait to read this because there's so much stuff. Your brave tribe. I was in a restaurant last night, and Jill, you can appreciate this. Growing up in LA, you have the best Mexican food, probably better than Mexican food.
Oh, yeah.
But like, it's the best Mexican food anywhere. So now I'm in Southwest Florida, and I've been on a quest for 5 years. Cannot find a great. There's edible Mexican food, but not great Mexican food here. Why? We have a lot of Hispanics. They're just not from Mexico. Right. They're from everywhere else. I mean, there are obviously people who are Hispanic that are from Mexico here, but So I go to this place last night. I'm so excited. I go with my ex-wife because we're so like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get good Mexican food. And I'm so excited. I'm gonna bring my ex-wife because I want her, and we're friends. So like,
That's
I
great.
want
I
her
love
to
it.
enjoy it. And it's not that good. And it just wasn't that good. It was disappointing. And but what I did is I looked around, right? And I went, man, everyone in here is overweight. And I thought,
Mm,
guess what? If I come in here every day and eat this food, I'm going to be
yeah.
overweight. But if I go
Mm,
to the gym every day, then I go to a like one-on-one thing. So it's only me and my trainer. It's just her and I in there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Is but when I'm hanging out with, I mean, I have a trainer for an hour every single day telling me, okay, we're working on this, we're working on that, we're getting better here, we're getting, and just to what you said is your brave tribe. Then I have somebody that food preps for me, and I have some, and then I have stretch massage. So I have like my tribe of experts, which getting around back to the audience, this right here, what Jill's talking about. And we're going to talk about how to engage with Jill and obviously buy our book. But this is like, if you're stuck, if you're like, hey, what's my first step to becoming financially independent, financially free, having more cash flow than I need, right? If you're stuck, there's some fear inside of you, I think. But I love that so I want to talk about because you start to work out, like you said, right? And it's my mental health. That's what I mean, I tell people. Last week I went on a golf trip, so and I walked 7 miles because the course we went to, you have to walk. But
yeah.
3 days in a row we play golf, but I didn't work out. Like I didn't, I didn't
Yeah,
lift
lift.
weights, which is
Hmm.
my thing, right? And I got home on Monday. I was tired, everything else. I didn't feel super happy, right? I kind of felt
Yeah.
like just run down, overwhelmed. And then next morning, 5 a.m., I work out for an hour and I'm back, like just like that,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
back. So talk about, how everything is energy, right?
Mhm.
Energy and fear is energy, bravery is energy, and talk about how that all works together and how energy, like positive energy, positive energy, positive energy creates momentum,
It
and how
does.
bravery can create momentum in your life.
Yeah. Well, what it makes me think of is I think some people just wait until they feel the energy or they
Yeah,
wait until they feel motivated. So you guys, motivation is completely overrated.
I totally
You
agree.
can get up and you just need to do the things that will create the energy. So I want people to think of like you're a generator. Think of you as like you're a generator and you can turn on the generator and it just starts chugging along and generating that positive energy. So don't wait for someone else to flick the switch on and go like, oh, I just didn't feel motivated today. No, you've got to be the self-starter. So we can, I just hired a new trainer. So I have a trainer that within 15 minutes, I got to go through this workout, which is pretty intense. But he goes, it wakes you up. It gets all your hormones going in the right way. And I'll wake up and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't feel like it. But no, I feel amazing because I just hit the workout. So that's what I do. So we all have ways that we can try to generate those positive emotions or generate that energy. The other thing that you were making me, there's two things you made me think of that I want to make sure I share. Number one is whatever the hard thing is that you're scared of doing, that you know that you need to do it early in the day. According to Roy Baumeister, famous psychology, said we have limited cognitive resources. You have the best chance of doing the hard thing early in the morning. But
Love
what
it.
most of us do is we wake up and we just kind of like, kind of wake up and have some coffee and just kind of
Hit the
ease into
snooze.
our day. And then we do the easy stuff like, oh, man, I'm just going to check some email. And then we keep putting off the hard thing, like, I'll do that later. I'll do that later. And at the end of the day, we're like, we don't get it done and we procrastinate. And then it goes to the next day. And then we're like, why haven't we accomplished our goals? Because we're not doing the things we need to do to take steps every day to accomplish our goal. So here's a little hint is I want you to attack the day. It's what I say in my keynotes as I speak on stages all over the world. Like, and I use all these Marine terms, but they're kind of fun. Like, Marines, we don't just get up in the morning and wonder what we're going to do and decide at maybe 2 p.m. if we may advance on the enemy. No, you attack the day. So for you, you got to win the battle each day to be able to win the war. So get up first thing in the morning, get yourself energized, and get to work immediately. And when you do that, then you get this dopamine hit too, because when you get the hard thing done, you're like, oh, wow, I already got that done. And then you're so much more productive the rest of the day. So Brian Tracy, who I love his work, he's got a famous book called Eat the Frog. Same exact thing, backed by psychology by Roy Baumeister. Roy Baumeister. So just get up in the morning and attack the day. And the other thing that you just made me think of, which is important, is it's really important to set goals. We want to have these challenging, meaningful goals. But the key to accomplishing the goal is don't be so fixated on the goal. Be fixated on what are the actions you need to take, the behaviors of things you need to do each day. And it goes back to your workout example. Like maybe you're like, I want 6-pack of abs. I want to be able to do 20 pull-ups in my age. Like that's my new goal is I want to do pull-ups. If I just keep thinking about pull-ups, like I have to get to the gym consistently and do the work. So you are what you consistently do. And it's about that progress. So it's so many people like set a big goal in January, all these New Year's resolutions, and they hit it hard for like 2 weeks and they don't accomplish the goal. And then they quit. So just do those right things. Take action consistently every single day. Do it early in the morning and do it consistently, and you will accomplish anything you set your mind to. It's the consistency. So focus not on, it's all about achieving the goal, but focus on the promise that you make to yourself each day on the action you're going to take in order to accomplish the goal. If you focus on the actions, that will get you there more so.
I love what you said about motivation. When I was in my 20s, and my business partner, we would be, I don't know who it would be. Maybe Tony Robbins was coming to town. You're going to the one-day thing, and it's like, and then we go, hey, we're going to this motivational speaker. Right now, Tony Robbins would say he's not a motivational speaker, but that's just what we said in our firm. And I remember, and he was by far the most successful person there. And he said, oh, I don't believe in motivation. He said, I don't believe you can motivate anybody. I think all you can do is create an atmosphere where you motivate yourself. And I always loved that. And I'm going to ask you the best advice you've ever received here in a second. But I love that. There was something else that you just said. It was not a motivation. It was, all right, I lost it.
Focus on behaviors versus the goal. You need to start taking notes like me, because I'm like you.
I am taking notes, but then I was listening so much I forgot to take notes on that one. But I think that's the motivation. I think is a really cool thing because people think, well, I'm going to read this book and it's going to motivate me, and it's like that's not why we read. We read to educate ourselves. So, like if you said, like there's all kinds of scientific evidence that if you lift weights, you'll live longer. Right. And there's stuff that's the muscle in your thigh can help determine how long you're going to live. And, and again, I'm in Florida, so there's a lot of old people, 60 in Florida is still young.
You're young. Like, you're spring chicken there.
Yeah. So, when I look at this and people say, well, Jim, you're kind of into anti-aging. I'm not into anti-aging. I just want to redefine what 60, 70, 80, 90 looks like. And so for me, not for anybody else, I feel as good at 60 as I did when I was 35. And I hit the golf ball just as far, probably not as strong, but so what? But I want to redefine it. I don't want to think like, hey, I'm 60. A friend of mine said, I'm in the last quartile of my life. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm like halfway. And like, that's my mindset. But like, I was trying to stall so I could figure out that last question.
What is that last thing you were going to say? I don't know. I'm sure it was brilliant. Jill, I'll just have to come back. I'll have to come back on another one. Yeah.
So, when I think of all of this and you're serving people, you're helping people, how do you engage with somebody? Let's say somebody's listening to this and maybe they have a company, do you have courses? Obviously the book, and I would encourage everyone. This is so important because I hear this every day. Jim, how do I get started? How do I get started? How do I start to build my real estate portfolio, my real estate dynasty, whatever your vision is, right?
Yeah.
And this is it. This is how you get started. You eliminate the fear.
Yeah. That's the first step. We have to identify the fears. We have to conquer those fears. It's absolutely essential to live your biggest, best life. Yeah. So I mainly work with organizations, companies. I don't work with individuals. I just don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. I'm getting a lot of people contacting me, wanting me to create like maybe an online course that people can take. So maybe in 2026, I will get to that. But for right now, I have a website and anyone can go there and they can take a free bravery assessment. And it's going to give you some insight on, as I was talking about, like the cognitive side of bravery, our beliefs, and then our behavioral side, will we take that step forward, the action, and then the social side. So I have a free bravery assessment that anyone can take. It's jillschulman.com. So JILLSCHULMAN.com. So go there, take the free bravery assessment. And then I have a bravery blueprint, free action guide, because I just want to give this away so that people can get started. Right.
Yeah.
My book it's available. It's inexpensive. And if you purchase the book, it's going to have so many more strategies in it. And then I wrote the book as a parable, because I love reading stories. Like, I am an academic geek, but I know that most people, when they look at the books on my shelves, they're like, oh my God, like that would make me fall asleep. So for a lot of my clients, I'll always have them read maybe like Ken Blanchard's The 1 Minute Manager, or John Gordon, who's a mentor of mine as well. I love him. He's got one called The Energy Bus, or, they're amazing because they're stories and you remember them. So it's written as a story that is very entertaining. And I have a little motivation in writing mine as a parable, is I want people to read the whole book. And when it's a story, like, you want to know what happens at the end. So you're going to listen to the story, and then after the story, then I have, for any of the scientific geeks out there, any fellow geeks out there, all the science is in the back. Most people are going to go like, story's done, they're going to close the book. But if you want any of this, it's in the back. And so in my website, free bravery assessment, free. Once you take the assessment, you get the bravery blueprint. So you get like actions that you can take, like exercises based on psychology, evidence-based things that you can take. It's PDF fillable, so you can get started like right away. I'm also on LinkedIn mainly because I mainly work with companies. So if anyone is leading a company and you feel like your leaders are not leading bravely, or your individual contributors are kind of playing small, like that would be a great fit, because I can come in, and that's how we really just boost results, is if everyone learns the skill of being brave and they apply it to work, but then they had started applying it to outside of work, and then they're happier, and then they like come into work. Like, it's this amazing like upward spiral. So I work with organizations. So I'm on LinkedIn primarily, but I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and my marketing team's trying to get me on TikTok and all that, but I'm not there yet. I don't know. I might be too old for that, but they're saying, no, you're not too old for that. So maybe I'll just say 2026 for that.
I love it. Jill, I could talk about this all day. And I'm not sure I've had very many guests, if any, more knowledgeable on their subject than you, and how effortlessly you that you talk about it, in like just with authority. So I commend you for that. It's really cool to talk to you about it. And I said we were going to go 30 minutes, and I know we're way over that. I don't even know.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault. I'm not very concise.
Not your fault. I would go another hour, because it's just, there's so much information here. And when I sit and I try to tell people like how to become financially independent and stop exchanging time for money and buy assets, and they think that this is just like too big of a thing, and they get stuck in not taking any action. Yeah. This is the answer is so get the book, take the assessment. I'm going to do that. All right, Jill, as we wrap up, throughout all of your experience and being a Marine and how cool that is. By the way, I have a 16-year-old granddaughter that's except for a week ago today, she went to live with her dad, because she always wanted to say that she lived with one of her parents. And she's like, and her dad is in a position now that he can have her live the next 2 years before she goes off into this world. And she's like, hey, Papa, like, is it going to upset you? And I was like, I think it's the right thing for you to do. That's what matters. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then she told me she was taking my dog, and she says, she's my dog. And I was like, okay, you're taking the dog too. Aww. So anyway, she wants to go into the military. Right. So she says, Papa, I've got this idea. I'm going to go to the military. They're going to pay for my school.
Yep.
And then I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to become a doctor. I'm going to have no debt. I'm going to also build businesses while I'm in the military because I don't really need any money. Like this is in her mind, her 16
I love it. Look at how brilliant, like you've been rubbing off on her. And then I can be that brave tribe for her. If she just wants to talk to someone who's gone the military route, because my college was paid for by the Marine Corps. It was the best route ever. So I'm just a resource if she would like to talk. That's amazing.
Absolutely. I would definitely take you up on that because I try to get all, especially women, like positive women in her life, and like my trainer, just everybody that I can like pour into her. And she's a really cool little girl. So
yeah,
I can't say I don't
little anymore.
Girl,
She's
my dog and my granddaughter. But throughout all of these accomplishments and this expertise and this education, and you're so well balanced, what's the best advice that anybody's ever given you, Jill?
I think the best advice is there's a leader that I really looked up to. He was really, really high up in my first pharmaceutical industry I worked for. And he just would always say, he goes, hard work is the ultimate equalizer. Like I always did really well in school, but like I always had to work so much harder. So I always felt like I wasn't as smart as everyone else. And he's like, oh, your intellect doesn't matter. Hard work is the ultimate equalizer. And it kind of like ties into what we were talking about before. If you can be disciplined to get up, do the work consistently, you can run circles around people who may be even smarter than you. So hard work is where it all is. Consistency and hard work.
I love that. You know that quote from, there's a quote that talks about persistence and it's like, it's not talent, it's not education, it's not any of those things. Persistence is omnipotent, and the world's full of people that are super smart that haven't accomplished anything.
Exactly.
And
so true.
Yeah. And so when you say embrace the suck, when I think about that, I think about Mike Tyson, just because I like Mike Tyson. He grew up with nothing, so we have something in common. And he said, you got to like embrace the stuff that you hate, right?
Yes.
Like that you hate doing. And I think about getting up in the morning, and you talked about this, and I don't care whether it's you pray first thing in the morning, you work out first thing. It's like you get all that stuff done by 8 o'clock. When I call somebody, I think they wonder what I'm on. Like, did you have too much coffee? But like, I get up this morning, I got up at 4:18. I'm kind of in this kick where every month I'm moving it back 1 minute, right? So, so I used to get up at 4:30. Now it's 4:18. And, but I got up, I felt great. And I was like, great, I'm going to go have some coffee. I'm going to go work out. I do my devotional on my phone. I do all this stuff. And I mean, by the time it's 6, I got home at 7 o'clock from working out, and I ran to the store, and I thought, I've gotten so much done already, right? Like it's not even 7 o'clock. And, so I never ever like think, oh my gosh, I got to get up. And I never think, somebody told me, this Eastern medicine guy one time, when he said, if you have a bad night's sleep, he said, just remember, rest is more important than sleep. Now, I don't even know if that's true, but it's in my head. So I'm like, well, I was resting. I didn't sleep great, but I was resting. So rest is more important than sleep. And so then it's just a positive way of looking at something of like, oh, I slept like crap. Like I can't get up. I don't know. And my trainer said that I've never missed a workout. And she's like, you're the only person that's never missed a workout, never been late.
See, it's the hard work. It's the persistence, the consistency. That's what gets us there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just a little
kind of like being a Marine. You take pride in doing those things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just to drop one more nerd thing in is when you look at the neurology of bravery. So it's really hard in the beginning. Like, let's say someone's like, okay, I want to be like Jim. I want to get up every morning at like 4:30 in the morning. Like, it is going to be extraordinarily hard in the beginning. But you're going to do it because this is important to you. But it gets easier over time, because what happens in our brain is just like our bodies change to the workouts that we do, our brain changes based on the workouts we do in terms of bravery. Like literally our prefrontal cortex becomes thicker because we're using the executive part of our brain to say like, no, we don't feel like it, but we're going to do it. So you see changes there. And then there's a little bravery part of the brain called the ACC, and we see more neural pathways. So there's like literally ways that you can build. I say it's just like building a bravery muscle. Like if I want to go in and bench 200 pounds, or if someone does, they don't go into the gym on day one and try and do it and can't do it and say, oh, it didn't work. And that's how people think about bravery. Like, no, you go in and you lift what you can. So you take that little step, right? Like for you, maybe they get up at 5:30, not 4:30, and they get up and they just go for a 20-minute walk. That's all they can do. But they start there and you just keep going and going. And with bravery, the more you do things that are hard and you just incrementally make it more difficult, then you change the way your brain is. And now it's pretty simple. Like now, like I love doing hard things. It feels exhilarating. It feels exciting. And it didn't start that way. I was a pretty scared little girl when I was 18, showing up in San Diego, reporting into my first unit, right? I have transformed, so I just want people to know, like, I just want to end on that note. Like, if you're feeling like I'm just not that person, like Jim is such a badass, like, and then you got this Marine here, you guys are like different. I just want everyone to know, like, I was you and you can do it. You just need to get started and be consistent and do the hard work, and you can be brave and you can accomplish anything.
I
Mhm.
love what you said there about like the weights. And somebody told me this, and I don't even know if this is a real thing. But they said it's like the SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demands,
Mm,
right? And so like I've always remembered that because it's like you said, those little steps. It's a journey. Like I
journey.
wasn't always 208 pounds. I didn't always have abs. Like I was overweight when I was unhappy and I was married,
Mhm.
and we ate differently.
Had Mexican food, but you still ate it.
That's right. Yeah, like, oh, there's Cheetos in the pantry. I mean, I probably should eat those Cheetos. Like there's nothing like that in my pantry because I don't care about like I've just changed my mindset to what I bring into my body. And so but it's not happened overnight, like you said.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I got to look at last question. If
Okay.
God came down from heaven and only allowed you to retain the knowledge that you've received, Jill, from one book that you've read, what would that book be?
I would say unequivocally it would be Meditations,
Love it.
which is by Marcus Aurelius. And it's something
Love
I
it
just discovered not long ago, but I feel like there's so much wisdom in that.
so much.
And that would be the one book. Hmm.
I love it. I love it. That's a great, if you haven't, and you know what? I don't think I've ever had somebody on the show say that book. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Marcus Aurelius,
Um,
Stoic philosophy. Hmm.
and I would encourage everyone to read that book. And you're right. You could read it. You could read it, start over, read it again. I mean, you probably would never ever get tired of the wisdom that's in that book.
Yeah.
So I love books like that, by the way, that you could just keep reading over and over and over again. Kind of in my belief system, kind of like the Bible. Like it's the same. Like you could read it over and over and over again, and which I do, and you get more and more knowledge. It's funny how so many personal development concepts are in the Bible, right? Everybody thinks it's like rules or this or this or this,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's like there's so much in there.
There's so many universal truths, right? Like
Yeah,
Stoicism came before the Bible was written, right? So
right.
Stoicism influenced the Bible, which influenced self-development. So I thought I was so original, like studying the stuff and writing my book. And then I was like, oh, wait, the Stoics actually said all the same things, which influence all the stories in the Bible. It's really all the same things. It's these universal truths. So no one's really original. We have just different ways of taking it. I'm just like the tough Marine academic geek that's sharing it my way, but it's all the same stuff, but it works.
But I
Mhm.
love that you're sharing it your way because when you're authentic and you're transparent and you truly care about helping other people find their bravery tribe, brave tribe, then it comes through and it totally comes through. Is so authentic for you. Jill, thank you so much for being on the show. And audience, there's a lot in there. So go back and listen to this again and listen to Jill. And I think about when I ask you like 5 questions, I'm like, no, I just want you to talk because I'm learning and I told you like before we started, I want to get to know you as the audience is getting to know you. And it's like, so I could have done this. This could be like a Joe Rogan 3-hour
We can just
podcast.
keep going. I know it was fun though. It was a blast.
Unfortunately, I don't have the audience that Joe has. So not that you're not a great audience. I just wish there were millions of you like Joe has. But Joe, thank you so much again. We're going to wrap this up, audience, like we always do with the incredible words of Earl Nightingale in The Strangest Secret. You are what you think about.
Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about.
Thanks for listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If you want to start increasing your wealth building ability right now, go to community.createtailwind.com to join our free online community and get access to free, in-depth training designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. See you next week.